Today we're talking about the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. So let's do this. What's up, YouTube? I hope you all are doing well. Today is the day we are talking about the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. I have been holding off on reviewing this lens for as long as I can. The lenses that I own, I always take a lot longer to review because usually I'm testing it out myself to get a really good idea of how well I like it and if I actually want to keep it into my normal rotation. Spoiler, this is in my normal rotation. Probably 90% of the time, this lens is on my camera, and I'm not holding this lens because it is currently on my camera filming my YouTube video. So as always, we are going to break this lens down by image quality, build quality, and my overall thoughts on the lens. Again, spoiler, I love it, but obviously hang out until the end to maybe see why. Before I get into the review, I did want to remind you that I do have a lens giveaway going on. I know if you've watched my last couple videos, you may think that I've already picked a winner. I haven't. I just have a really bad memory of mentioning it. So I am still giving away the Fujian 35mm f1.7. If you're interested in winning that lens, check out this video and see what you need to do to win that lens. So I'm going to keep that open for one more week and I will be announcing a winner in my next video. So stay tuned. Very aggressive. So let's start everything off with image quality. There are a few different key aspects about this image quality that I want to talk about. One is the fact that this is a super sharp lens. Matter of fact, some people that use this lens for filmmaking will often put a filter on this lens to take away from the sharpness because clinically it is such a sharp lens. For photography, that's great, but for video work, especially if you want some type of characteristic to your shot, having a super sharp lens is not always the greatest. But with that in mind, if you're looking for something that's ultra sharp, this is a lens to consider. This lens would be really great for an interview scenario or any corporate gig that you may have. It is sharp corner to corner. I personally enjoy the image that comes out of this lens, but I can see if you want some character to your shot, you may want to put some type of filter on the lens just to soften it up just a little bit. The other thing is the aperture. It is a constant f1.8. That means if I'm at the 18mm or the 35mm, I can still be at the f1.8 aperture. That is amazing. Now, I do want to also clarify that this is a crop sensor lens. So what that means is you cannot use it for full frame cameras. Well, you can, you just may be using your crop mode for your full frame camera. So with that being said, having that constant f1.8 aperture, this lens is amazing in low light, especially with a speed booster. It then turns into something like an f1.3. And so you can get into some really low light scenarios, even with something like micro four thirds cameras. So with the f1.8, you have really good low light performance. You also have really good shallow depth of field, giving you that subject isolation that you're looking for when you're trying to create something a little bit more cinematic. So that's also another reason why this lens is really sought after, because again, you have a really good range of focal lengths, and with the f1.8, you can get really good shallow depth of field with each one of those focal lengths as well. So you have the sharpness, the f1.8 aperture. The other thing I really enjoy about this lens is the close focusing distance. The close focusing distance on this lens is amazing. Now I'll put somewhere on the screen what it is exactly, just because I, off the top of my head, don't know the exact measurement. The close focusing distance on this lens is so good. I've actually started using this lens for all of my product shots when I'm doing reviews. I'm actually kind of bummed out that I'm not going to be able to use this lens to shoot this lens for this review. It's very like meta, but still very bummed out. The close focusing distance is amazing on this lens. You borderline get some macro performance out of this lens just because of that amazing close focusing distance. Overall, I've been really pleased with this image. Now, some of the downside that I may have about either the image quality, potentially even the build quality as far as, you know, its design and how it's made, is there's no stabilization in this lens. And so if I put it on something like the Blackmagic, which does not have IBIS, I have to be really careful to not have just the most shaky footage. So that's kind of a bummer for me, is there's no stabilization in the lens itself. So then let's talk about the build quality of this lens. This lens is a hefty lens. And some people love that, some people hate that. Me personally, if I'm taking out my GH5, I'm probably using it as more of a run and gun, need a small compact setup. This is not going to give me that. But if I'm trying to add weight to my Blackmagic because it doesn't have IBIS, so I'm trying to add some bulk to the Blackmagic so I can keep some stability there, this is a perfect lens for that. Now, what it doesn't help with is my back, my arms, because I get very fatigued after like 45 minutes of filming and want to quit and give up filmmaking entirely. But I press on. Some of the things I appreciate about the build of this lens is the fact that it is focused by wire, but that focusing ring does have some hard stops. While yes, the ring does keep on turning, you can actually feel some stopping points in the focusing as you're turning it. The other thing that's really great about this having focus by wire is it does have clear focus markers. So it's a little bit more predictable when you're pulling or racking focus because it does have the hard stops and it does have the display of where the focusing sits. Now it does have a autofocus and manual focusing switch, which is kind of laughable to me because I just keep it in manual focus all the time. Not to mention I have the Nikon version and so I can't use autofocus. So for me, it is what it is. I almost forget it's there half the time. But it is on the lens if you want to switch between autofocus and manual focus if you are using this on either a Canon camera, a Sony camera, or anything that may allow for autofocus. Something I'm also a huge fan of is the zooming and the focusing are all internal. Now that does add some size to this lens, having everything internal, but I'm always a huge fan of when there's no barrel extension or anything like that. Being that this is Sigma's art series, that's kind of their flagship series, and so it should come as no surprise this lens is just quality. So between the image quality, between the build quality, what are my overall thoughts on this lens? And I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm not even gonna ask the question, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I absolutely think you should buy this lens. If you're curious of why I tell you all the time that you should buy a lens, because usually I tend not to review lenses that I just don't like. Those will just get kind of swept under the rug. So any lens that I review, I'm probably gonna recommend in some form or fashion. Now this lens, I recommend hands down to anyone, even if you're a photographer. Most of my channel is about filmmaking and videography, but if you're a photographer, some reason watching this video, I recommend it to photographers. If you're a videographer, filmmaker, and you do things like corporate shoots or weddings, wedding videographers, like absolutely, this should be in your arsenal. I don't like throwing around the phrase must have or you must own this lens. I think that's really a subjective term that a lot of people just throw around, but this is one where I truly believe it's must have, must own, simply from the fact that you do have a large focal range with the 18 to 35 and with the constant f1.8. So I absolutely think that this is a must-have lens for a lot of people. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this gave you some insight on how good I think the 18 to 35 from Sigma really is. And honestly, I kind of think it's like the best lens for crop sensor cameras. I will be leaving some links below. I'm going to put a link to lens rentals if you guys want to rent this lens and test it out. I'll also be leaving affiliate links from Amazon, so check it out if you do want to purchase it. As always, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like. If you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. If you do want to win the Fujian 35mm f1.7, check out this video if I'm able to put it up here in the card, because I think if I put it up earlier, I can't put it up here again. So I may put it in the description as well. I'll figure it out. And as always, thank you guys for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe. Be happy. Wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace. Okay, I got no bloopers this week. It was perfect. So let's get... And as always, thank you guys for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe. Be happy. Wash those hands. I did that again. I don't know what happened. And as always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe. Be happy. Wash those hands. I clapped and probably peaked the audio. I think I accidentally turned off the light. Maybe I shouldn't put the remote in my pocket. And as always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay... Wow, why am I doing that? Yep, probably shouldn't put the remote in my pocket. And as always, thank you guys for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Stay safe. Be happy. Wash those... I'm being cautious now. I'm just being cautious.